control while you're doing that. There we go. I picked an interesting game today. I think it was interesting. I saw it last night, believe it or not. Didn't intend to do the lecture on this, but I couldn't resist. I thought it was a cool game. I originally was going to do a few other things. I was thinking about doing a Joseki lecture of modern Joseki. I'll probably do that next time. I considered reviewing a game on the Kobayashi. That might have been interesting too. But in the end, I decided to go ahead and pick this game above them all, because there's a lot of fighting, and I like fighting. Fighting is fun, and it's also fighting that everyone here should probably, well, predominantly everyone here will be able to follow along with, especially while it's being explained. So, Ghoulie was black, as you see. They're both 9-dan professionals, in case anyone was wondering. Take my headset off because no one's talking, obviously. There we go. It opens up as we normally see. Nothing unusual. Well, I should stop saying that, actually, because a recent professional game of Chocho Hans, he opened up rather odd. He decided to go ahead and take, if I remember correctly, dual points. I think it was these two, or maybe it was those two, as his opening, and that is definitely rather unusual for a professional game. So I might have to stop saying that if he continues that particular trend. But alright, Ghoulie goes ahead and plays Orthodox, not at all uncommon from him. We all know that reasonable moves for white now are to split black, make sure that he cannot get his enclosure with an extension, and develop a bit of a framework around a nice and strong enclosure. White, however, decides that he's not going to do that. He's going to go ahead and take an enclosure for himself. And this is where amateur players first begin to see a little few spots of confusion in their gameplay. Because now they're not sure what to do. I mean, do you take your opponent's enclosure or extension away? Do you take your own extension for yourself? What is better here? Well, it's typically better, in my opinion anyway, to have your opponent responding to you rather than you responding to your opponent. Ghoulie went ahead and took his extension. That way he gets a nice position. White has to worry about that. He does so immediately by approaching the 4-4 point, and Ghoulie responds in such a way that I was rather amazed. I do not see this particular response very often. What responses do you guys normally see here? Maybe I'm the only one in being surprised by this. Maybe it's just me. What do you guys consider normal here for black? M17 pincer, very normal, sure. Really, you see L17 here, that's a bit unusual. Chachi sees M16. Or, no, L16. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, I expect A or D here as the most common responses that I typically see in professional games. The person who did say that, it was... Oh, wait. Never mind. I can't give you credit for that. You took it back. Too-hoo-hoo. Well, M16 actually was the correct answer here. Oh, shoot. No, it wasn't. Bye-bye, game tree. I meant to do L16, sorry. Is actually what we saw here in this game. As I mentioned, I usually see this simply going ahead and playing rather steadily to develop the right-hand side. Sometimes I see this with the aim of developing something here. I don't typically see the wide pincer. So that was the first surprise for me this game. Now, white obviously has a choice. He can go ahead and dive in the corner, or he can jump up. But if he jumps up, he's not really gaining a whole lot here, especially with black's follow-up moves later. I mean, the only way to really develop this area is to get that in, and then hope that maybe later on we can get something like this in to ensure that black can't, do that variation I just showed. And even then, unless you want to be kept low, you probably still need a bit of a Hane here to actually have development. So this Joseki is more or less to get some sort of shape and ensure that your opponent is going to find it a little bit difficult to develop here. Not really gaining that much for white, not really gaining that much for black. I always view it as just a way to ruin the area. But that's just me. But instead, no, that's my failure, thank you. Stop flaunting it. Instead, white goes ahead and hits the 3-3. And now we have to decide which way we're going to block. We can block here, or we can block here. Though if we block this way, it becomes a bit more difficult to use that Q10 effectively. We're not really getting a wall to use with it. We're, at this point, saying that we want to develop on the top side of the board. So that in itself would be a little unusual. Black instead blocks this way in order to develop. However, something that I always tell my students is that this is very difficult to actually play, because how are you going to effectively seal this area with one move? It really can't be done. I mean, Guli attempts to with a small knight, but as we all know, small knights can be cut. So we can start thinking of, well, is there Aji here? Can we potentially cut through this later? Maybe we can. I don't like leaving such Aji behind. But it is rather fast development. It is rather fast development. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that you are white, and you are now looking at this rather large framework that, well, it's kind of turning into a moyo, isn't it? This rather large moyo that Black's developed for himself. How do you think we should go about trying to dismantle it? Or maybe we shouldn't dismantle it. I mean, I guess we could go ahead and continue building up on the left side, maybe. What do you guys think? Don't say Tengen. O10. What is O10? You are very, very aggressive, sir. You want to go ahead and just cap that fourth line move and try and dismantle it that way. Interesting choice. Probably a bit too early for that, though, especially with the bottom and the left still open. Because if you're busy trying to live in the middle, your opponent's just going to go ahead and take another large area for himself. And you're going to have to go ahead and respond to that. And if you end in Gote there, you'll try and take another large area for himself. And you'll just find yourself kind of just invading all over the place and not really getting many points. So as some of you mentioned, he goes ahead and he plays the K4 area. Very simple to understand why. Let's say he plays elsewhere. I don't know, maybe that wasn't alive or something. Well, then Black can go ahead and get another extension. Now he has two of them off his cornerstone, or corner enclosure, for a nice friendly little double wing. Now he really does have a bit of a moyo growing. He's got a nice little wall, he's got extensions on the bottom, got extensions on the right. White still doesn't have very much territory at the moment. Is it better to play J4 directly or approach? Wait. That's up to you, actually. That's a bit of a matter of style. You can play either way. This way says, I'm getting my extension, there's nothing white can do about it. This says you're feeling a bit more aggressive. Maybe white will pincer, maybe he won't, who cares? We can turn it into a fight. If he backs off, then I'll go ahead and take the bottom for yourself. So it's really kind of how you want to continue along with the board. Completely up to you. So white goes ahead and says, no double wing for you. I'm going to see about stopping that dead in its tracks. And again, out of habit, this is just very bad amateur habit, I immediately see something like this and I'm like, ooh, I must play here, or he gets enclosure along with his extension. Do not like. Unfortunately, black... yes, he was. Unfortunately, black is a pro and doesn't have those very silly amateur reflexes ingrained into his brain. He decides, you was astonished when you saw M3. Someone went ahead and had already seen the game. And yes, M3 was played. Rather than my amateurish reflex to go ahead and play here to ensure that white doesn't get the enclosure and extension here, black instead went ahead and played this. Now, it seems slow, but it's actually quite nice. It might seem slow at first glance, but it really is quite nice. Because we can now go ahead and attack this stone if we want. If, let's say, I don't know, white plays elsewhere, then we can definitely come in. Now we've got a framework and a target painted on the board. So that would be nice for us. If white jumps up, let's say he plays something along the lines of here, well, we still have development because we can potentially shoulder hit that for potentially taking an area halfway across the board. So that's still fairly nice, and we can still come in here if we so wish. We've got a lot of options here. White, however, says, no, you should have gone ahead and approached me, so I could not get my enclosure with my extension. So he takes his enclosure for himself. Pretty understandable. Really basic ideas that we can all follow along with. Because all we need to know so far is really enclosures at this point. All we have to do to follow along this game so far is pretty much to understand enclosures. We want extensions, and we can see that on both sides of the board, as well as how to adequately use our walls. So far, nothing too complicated that we can't follow along with. Yeah, Emrys sums it up nicely. This is a bit of calm before the storm. Now, I would expect from black to come in, or to pincer, or something, to focus on that stone. That is immediately what I was going to assume. Is K4 okay for who? For white? For black? K4 would be a little bit unusual because you're solidifying white at that point in order to grow. I like this point a lot better, which is what was played in the actual game. If we play this, we're probably going to get responded to, and then we're either pushing back, and then white's going to follow and just push on up and start making it so you can't really invade the bottom left anymore. Because, I mean, if you do, you're behind enemy lines, and you're going to be staying there for a very long time unless you have something really good up your sleeve. So you need to make sure that what you just got from this result was worth the attachment. And right now, it really wasn't. We need another move to make this worth it worth it. So why don't we just go ahead and play the move anyway, and not remove that Aji. And here we are tempted to go ahead and defend. But white decides he's not going to defend. He's going to invade. Yeah, he is very, very brave. And now we can really see L5's usefulness. Because there are a lot of moves that we want to play here as white, and most of them don't work. Because I'm sure you all know the next move, right? How do you respond to this invasion? What do we do? RJM says that we should play R9. Few people want to just play R10. It's a strong move. A little bit more passive. The kick is actually the correct answer here. Particularly because there's a lot of moves that white normally wants to play here that we can't. I mean, we've got a lot of things. We can jump up, we can play attachments, there's a lot of different things that we can do. But if we play the shoulder hit like we want to do, then we find ourselves having a problem because black has nice moves positioned to ensure that this ladder doesn't go anywhere. So we can't play this result. If this ladder didn't work, then black would have to back off, we'd probably get a chance to get like a few forcing moves in, and still come out. All of this would be fairly nice in terms of getting shape for invasion. But with that ladder working, he can go ahead and play aggressively. So then what does he do instead? Does he jump out? Could, but we have a problem with sector lines. Does everyone know what sector lines are? I should have asked that before the invasion. Do we all know what those are? No, we don't? Okay. Essentially, it's just a... Dasan does. I would imagine that you do, Dasan. You tend to go over them in every one of your lectures, or every one of your game reviews, so anyone who has ever played you should know what they are. But essentially, when deciding on where to invade, we typically look at the outer edge of whatever influence we are finding frightening at the moment. And in this case, it's this. Anything beyond this point, as in to the right of this point, looks like it is turning into black territory if we're not careful. So typically, unless we have forcing moves, we don't want to go beyond this point. When white invaded, here, there we go, if he simply jumps up, well, we can keep him nicely boxed in with a similar idea. He can't really get beyond this point. He's not going to be able to fight through it because we're already there. He's very, very deep in deep behind enemy lines, and there's no good way to get out. So this doesn't work because the ladder works for black, and this doesn't work because we're simply going to get sealed in. So white has to try to attach. This is where we have to decide if we're going to be greedy or if we're going to simply take our profit. If we're going to be greedy, we're probably going to defend the corner. By defending the corner, our opponent won't be able to live there. That is being greedy. If we extend up, then we're saying, well, maybe our opponent's going to live here, but it's going to be small. And it's going to be in Gote, as you notice. We'll then be able to go ahead... Yes, I think I ruined it too. But I already ruined it before, so that's cool. But this is in Gote, so black will be able to keep just extending or invading or whatever he wants to do with, you know, the half the board that he still has influence over. So white says, you know, maybe living in the corner is not for me. I'm going to get out of here. And when your opponent says that, he can't have everything. So we go back and block and make sure he can't go back and live there. We don't want him to change his mind. Hihane tries to live. Black throws in. If black lets him live, is it still Gote? Yeah. Oh, you're saying this move will be ignored? Are you saying white's going to play elsewhere, Emerus? You mean white gets S5, as in the game. Well, if he gets S5... Yeah, and black doesn't defend the corner? Well, now we have a problem. Because now if we want to keep him dead, we've also got this cut point right next to a white stone. So the question then becomes, is this really going to be Sente? Or Gote? Or one of those that ends with a te? And probably not. At this point, I think the cut point needs to be protected. Because if we go elsewhere and he cuts and he says, okay, we're going to connect, white will probably say, no, you're not, and kill your stone. So he's probably going to get out. So at this point on this board, I'm going to go ahead and say that cut point is too large. So it looks like it might not be Gote for white to live after that. Because of that annoying little stone at R8. So black says, fine, you're not living in my corner. White wants to live on the outside. Black decides to try to kill him. As you do. I mean, he is behind enemy lines. You don't want to simply let him live. That wouldn't be cool. This cut point is very nice. It creates all manner of problems later on. Because now we're breaking this down a little bit. This group only has 2 liberties, so we're going to be able to get forcing moves like an Atari later on, for example. We might be able to get interesting things in the corner, depending on how he captures it. And we'll be seeing some of that later. So for now, black takes. And now we have, again, a very important decision to make. What do we do? Because I'm sure a lot of people are saying, okay, it's time to go ahead and play S. Thank you, Romulus. Thank you very much. Some people want to play S6. If we do play S6, then we've got a little bit of a problem here. This is going to be Sente. We have to Atari. This is going to be Sente. How do you take? Do you play this first? If so, you're giving another force move to your opponent. Do you simply take the stone? Okay, no more forcing moves, but this is no longer a problem anymore, right? We're strong enough here that this shoulder hit actually works. We can go ahead and easily kill this stone. So that means we have to back off, and we can begin escaping. So it looks like we're getting in and we're getting out, and black is now undercut on this side. So we're getting a lot here for ourselves. This seems to be turning into a successful invasion, because we went ahead and connected and gave him forcing moves to get stronger. Instead, black says, you can't live there. Even if you connect and prevent me from playing S6, all I have to do is prevent you from making 2 eyes. Simple. Basic rule of Go. Every group needs 2 eyes. So white defends and black extends. Don't want to leave Sente. Don't want to go back and take S6 for ourselves. So white takes it for him. So now the question is, can this group really live as is? If it can, congratulations, you managed to invade and live, albeit very, very small. And we could do that. Right now, black can so go ahead and play S9 and force the capture of his one stone and just take what he has as profit. Instead, he says, no, you're not alive yet. Bit of a bummer. White extends, black blocks. It's also a nice move for other reasons, too. As long as we have a T7 at the moment, white can't do anything really irritating, like try and live here, or not try and live here, try and undercut us by jumping underneath, because that doesn't really work. So he extends, blocks, can't live there locally, so we have to leave. And now let's see how many of you understand shape. Not Emerus, don't you say a thing. I know you know this game. What? I thought you said that you did see it earlier. Oh, alright. Alright, then in terms of shape, what should be played here? We're still trying to make it so white can't live locally. On the other hand, it seems that we're kind of allowing white to Hane at the head of 2 stones. So what do we do? Everyone seems to agree on P5, no one's saying O8. Indeed. 07? No, Hane is not a good idea either, sorry. Because yes, if we go ahead and play elsewhere, then we are allowing this annoying Atari to take place. And at that point, it's going to be very, very simple for white to live. Granted, living with only 2 points isn't much of an invasion, but it's still a successful invasion. So black defends himself. White does not jump, because if we jump, wouldn't you know it, there happens to be a cut point just waiting. That would be bad. So he extends. Black extends, because keep in mind, he's not out yet. There's still this little outer sector line between these 2 stones. If white doesn't respond, we are so going to double Hane this and kill him. Instead, white jumps out. Black follows. And white is temporarily fine. If we keep responding, now that the cut point is protected, we know he's going to get out. If we keep responding, he might also activate that really, really irritating small knight cut point now that he's kind of getting some strength here. So we might wind up responding in Gote if we play here again. That could be a problem. So black leans, as opposed to playing something like this. Because here, now it looks like we kind of have to play this. And at this point, we're in trouble. Because we don't want to play this move. This move is ugly. This move is disgusting. I'd rather all of these stones be off the board than playing this stupid shape. So black attacks. Now, why is black attacking? What is he hoping to accomplish here? What is he doing? Anyone know? Anyone have any ideas? Whoa, that's a lot of text. Okay, let me read this real quick. Making a new sector line. True, we do have a new relationship between these 2 stones. We're attempting to put black or white behind enemy lines again. True, leaning attack, leaning attack, leaning attack. I think we might have a leaning attack here. Leaning attack, building up strength, that goes with leaning attack. More leaning attacks. I think everyone knows the concept of a leaning attack. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you all have that idea down pretty well. What is a leaning attack? Thank you. Essentially, this stone is forcing a response from white, or trying to, essentially. Some sort of, any kind of defense. Or response, rather. And as you are threatening to surround it, but white knows it's in trouble, so it's not going to allow itself to be killed. So we're not actually going to kill this. We can't expect to kill this. All we're trying to do, really, is get some extra, and I'll mark this real quick, is get some extra strength here by leaning on it, forcing it to run away and defend itself. After it's done that, we can go back and, I don't know, maybe attack this group again, now that we have extra strength. But white defends himself this way. One second. Sorry. I had to cough for a minute there. So white defends himself that way. Similar idea. You can still push, but you're not going to get as much out of it. They're both professional 9-dans. So white's... That's odd. Someone's at my door. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that break there. Had to go find out what was going on. Yes, fresh game indeed. And a game that was actually able to follow along pretty well. I think most of you guys are able to as well, so I picked that instead. Next time I might pick my Joseki lecture or the invade Joseki lecture that I intend to give or something else. I don't know. Anyway, back to the game. So, white defended, and black takes time to go ahead and take some territory for himself. So he plays here, knowing he's going to get a response. Why does he know that? Because if white does not respond with a defensive move, then, give me a corner, then we have to read out what happens if black actually starts poking at our corner. And what happens is we don't have nearly enough space to live. We can go ahead and play this way. Now we're very, very small. Black can still extend along the top. A lot of really unfortunate problems here going on. So white says, forget that, I'm going to make sure my base is fine. I don't want you enclosing me, thank you very much. And this is where the game gets really, really interesting again. Because Ghoulie apparently is psycho, and he goes on another attack. He decides to attempt to harass these two stones that I am very behind in labeling. Now, I really, really, really don't like ever claiming that a professional has made a mistake, but I think white might have made a little bit of one here. Because white's first response is to kick. Immediately, black goes back and pokes at white's shape before putting white behind enemy lines. Now, which enemy lines am I referring to right now? This one. Why is that important? Because our shape was just ruined over here on the right-hand side. So when black continues this, we find him single-purposely going after one thing only. He's going after that influence. Why? Because he wants to go ahead and target the right-hand side again. If that can't go anywhere and its shape is ruined, then it's going to die. That strikes me as a really, really, really bad idea. Out of reflex, I probably would have responded to this, to try to keep black behind my enemy line instead. That way, it makes it harder for him to use that particular idea, but I don't know. There could be really, really awful stuff involved with this that I'm not reading out. I mean, it leaves a corner open, obviously, but this seems so risky. White says, okay, I'm gonna kill you now. Pokes for Aji. And then goes back and kills. Not the white group just yet, but he's strengthening himself in the center while threatening those H3 stones. White has no choice but to ensure that black's gonna get captured here. Ghoulie pokes around for Aji because he's very, very good at utilizing every scrap of Aji, and we're going to find that out very shortly as well. And then plays the very important move to kill. Why is it important? Because without it, white can drop down first, forcing a response. And now he can go ahead and harass this one stone. So now he has Aji of this that can still extend, Aji of this that now has to break out, essentially, otherwise it's going to be in a lot of trouble. Then again, might even be able to do it this way. This way might even be cleaner. I mean, that'd be kind of... connected up too, I suppose. So very, very important move there to eliminate that irritating little Aji. White obviously is going to struggle. He's not going to let his group die all that easily. Black says, no, you're not coming out that way. So white says, okay, what if I create cut points? Black threatens to connect underneath. White uses the opportunity to connect. And here we see another interesting problem. Black's obviously going to go ahead and utilize the cut point, which white goes ahead and sacrifices. I can only assume it's because this is getting killed as well. Though I'm not completely certain of that. Looks like there's a better chance for life there than the other way. But okay, white sacrifices. Black strengthens. White says, is there a Haji here, pretty please? And Black says no. White says, how about now? And another really, really important move to have to read out correctly here. And I didn't actually see the depth of this move until I actually saw the variations. I didn't read this out properly. A lot of people would go ahead and not take this stone, but connect or try to push through. But the problem with that is this gets to be a bit of a problem, because this is going to net a response. This is going to net a response. And how are you going to respond this way? Are you going to drop down? If you do, congratulations. White's now alive. If you take, and connect, congratulations, you're now killed. So connecting at p4 is a death sentence. You can't do it. If you do it, you die. Or you let your opponent live. So that was a really nice attempt for white. But obviously Guli sees it and he says no thank you. Plays the Hane. Says no, I like that eye, thank you. Gets rid of the cut point. And gets rid of the Aji. Now we have an interesting problem here. Because white is now dead. However, he managed to die in Sente. He didn't die in Gote. That's thankfully for that. And he picked up a bit of a corner and a lot of influence at the same time. So sure, he's dead. But with one more move, you can see that he's attempting to take a very, very large side for himself. So not only do we get to see in this game what happens when you invade behind enemy lines, we are also going to have to figure out how to successfully invade. Otherwise, this might turn into a very, very close game, or at worst, we might in fact actually lose it. Kata, can you comment on the value of black M8? Where's M8? Oh, M8. That is a problem for later if you don't play that. If you don't connect, you're allowing your opponent to Atari and then extend. Right. So your stones at L8 are going to fall under attack again. That is not good Aji. I mean, is it going to die? I don't know, but that's Aji that white can use to resurrect himself. Potentially later on, especially if we start getting into moves like, you know, what's all of this gonna do? Along with, you know, all of these forcing moves. I mean, is any of this gonna work? Who knows? Do you want to actually bet the game that none of it does? Probably not. So white goes ahead and builds up a large area. And now we have to find a way to successfully invade, because if we die as black, as spectacularly as white did on the right-hand side, this will definitely be a game to remember, and we'll have no idea who's going to win it. However, as I mentioned earlier, Guli is very, very good at using every single scrap of Aji in order to live. And we see that here as well. He goes for forcing moves, clearly. He attaches immediately to the stone, because it's going to net a response. If it does not net a response, he's probably going to live on the bottom of the board fairly easily. Invasion, successful. So white's got to do something. Oh, not true. Guli's stones do die. I saw a couple of games recently where he got killed. So white goes ahead and extends, trying to leave as little Aji as possible. Could we Hane? Yes, we could. But then you have to read out things like the cut. You have to read out things like the Hane here, and start getting into cross cuts and ladders potentially, depending on how you're going to play this. And that's a lot of things to read out. So he plays nice and strong. No weird cross cuts being left behind. Just a nice strong extension. So black says, okay, how about if I give you cutting points here? Responds, and Atari doesn't want him to live, so he's obviously going to connect. Now we have forcing moves. Do I think B would be happy? Well, Guli, no, I don't think Guli would be happy with a reduction. I don't think black's going to be happy unless he invades. But you have to count that out. If you give a reduction, so you're going to give most of the fourth line over to white, as well as the bottom left-hand corner. White's got the upper right-hand corner. I don't know. If you reduce, you're going to be attacked. And if you're attacked, then you might see this severely reduced as white gets stronger in the center. At that point, the game starts getting really, really close again. So instead, is white N4 Sente N4? And what is N4? N4 is there. Oh, that. Oh, N2, okay. Yes, that is actually Sente. In fact, we see that later, I think. So, good question. So, black attaches, looking for right. Goes ahead and plays a cut, because we're now trying to use up every single scrap of Aji in order to live here. And this is the way you're supposed to live. All of those forcing moves, even if your stones that you're using them against or are part of, like we see here at E4, are dead, if your opponent's going to have to go back and kill them, they've served their purpose. So here, white Atari, black extends, and then plays to kill off the 3 stones. Why does he do that? Because he cannot, under any circumstances, extend again. If he does, congratulations, that's now Sente. We can't Atari, because that leads to an Atari. All we can do is bend and wonder why we played that move. Because all of these moves now are going to be Sente. And at this point, black's actually getting shape and leaving very, very quickly. Invasion successful. So white realizes that and kills off that Aji immediately. No more there for you. Plays the cut, or not cut, the Hane. White responds. Plays double Hane, trying to get any kind of life here. Even a small life on the left, on the second and third line here would be very productive for black. White says, okay, you're going to stay there, because if we play this way, then we have a problem. And that problem is these attachments. We can never Hane, and we can never extend. So that's not good. Yeah, actually, good point. Even that works. Don't need to play it at this point, but yeah, I guess that works. I guess you'd have to play something else at that point. I don't know what, though. Either way, it looks like there's a lot of really bad Aji if you do that. So he plays here, extends back, saying, try to live on the second line. So black says, okay, I think I will. I wanted to invade you, so that's what I'm going to do. Forcing move. I think this was time Suji. At this point, I think white was getting pretty low on the clock. So that was a forcing move. Then he responds, keeping black down. Black just goes ahead and makes some 2 eyes. All he needs, nothing special. White responds. Black extends. At this point, it looks like that black is going to live. Because if we cut him, he's alive. If we let him out, that could be a lot worse. So white cuts. Black gets to Atari. And now he has a choice here. Instead of going back and looking at more Aji, he could go ahead and play the Atari and make his 2 eyes and just live in Gote. Could do that. Could do that. Unfortunately, Ghouli's not that passive, so he goes for a little bit more, because he's got a lot of forcing moves here. So he plays the Atari. White cannot extend. Instead, he tries to keep him in. Then he plays another interesting move. He goes ahead and plays the cut. He's throwing in another dead stone. White takes it. Black plays the Atari. Forcing moves to connect. Takes the stone. White gets to connect out. And here's where everything just ends. The minute White defends and threatens to connect his other groups together, there's nothing White can do. He has too many problems. He can't respond to this. He's about to die in the corner. Because keep in mind, now that Black has a lot of liberties, one thing that he does not want to see, for example, is this, because it's a forcing move. And that's a forcing move. And that's now captured. That we definitely don't want to see. So we can't even think of disconnecting here. We have to do something else, anything else. Even playing something like this, or just going back and living. But if he does that, then they get to simply connect up very, very simply. And that's no good either. So White goes ahead and resigns. You can't keep him disconnected. Black's invasion was definitely successful. White is still just as dead on the right as he was earlier. He has nothing, so he resigns. Interesting game. We have interesting invasion on the right-hand side, in which we can see the dangers of going back behind enemy lines. And we also have an invasion on the left-hand side, in which we can see the importance of forcing moves. So we have that kind of stark contrast in the same game, which I thought this game was really cool because of it. I hope you all enjoyed it. As per usual, I will be giving another lecture a week after next. And I hope you all have a good night. Oh, are you still actually,